Welcome to another episode of Latina Leadership Series. I am your host. My name is Angelica Casares. So on this episode, we talked to Teresa. Look, do you remember the whole thing that happened, the whole like debacle thing that happened with like the conglomerate, like giants of like the tech world of like, you know who I'm talking about, okay? There was things that happened and she was like in the trenches of it. And she had a lot to say in terms of that and like the after effect and how it affected our community and the things that, look, it was an amazing interview. I do very little talking. I sat back. She had a message. She had things. She had something she wanted to say. I sat back and I listened. It was amazing. It was an absolutely amazing conversation. I really want you to listen to it. But before you listen to it, I want to let you know that the entire Latina Leadership is actually sponsored by my good friends at Walmart. They gave me the opportunity to bring this series to you. And so here it is. These are the kind of conversations that I wanted to have on this Latina Leadership Series. I really hope you enjoy them. And also, go tell Walmart thank you. Tell them, hey, what's up? Like, we really enjoyed that Latina Leadership Series that Angelica did. Thanks a lot for sponsoring the entire series. All right. So with that, I'll let you enjoy this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Latina Leadership Series. My name is Angelica Casares, and I am your host. So, as we all know, Angelica is just downstream interviewing absolutely amazing ladies throughout the community. And especially when I hit up Arizona and I hit She Podcast, I made an amazing group of ladies that you just happen to be one of those that I hit like right on. So
Thank
I
you.
happened to interview Myra. And during that interview, I mentioned that we went to dinner with
Hmm.
two individuals and I wanted to have both of you ladies there because I left that dinner leaving like I had left with two friends and I was like, and I thought to myself, okay, and hey guy, you're like hyping yourself up and you've done this before. You've done this before where you want to make friends really quick. And then I was trying to talk myself out of it. Like they're okay,
Hmm.
Angelica, you know what I mean? And I was like, no. I was like, I do that every time. And of course, friendships don't work if you don't like put into them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I was like, okay, no, no. And then of course, the holiday funk is happening. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in, the pre-holiday funk where like things are happening and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, okay, I know what this is. This is me second guessing myself. This is me thinking people don't like me. This is me, right? This is the imposter syndrome that I get. This is the thing that I have. And so, Teresa, I wanted to bring you on here because you were telling us some amazing things during that dinner. You were telling us your story. You were telling us the things you're doing now, the things you've done in your past, and the things you're trying to look forward to the future. And if it's okay with you, I would love
Hmm.
to touch on some of that and tell part of your story and tell part of the things that you're doing and why you do the things you do and why you are the way you are, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I love to share, as you know from that night. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm an open book right now. After a glass of Pinot, forget it. I'm like, yeah, let's talk. Um,
So
no, go ahead.
that night, we started
Hmm.
talking about like a few topics. First, let's start here. Teresa, who are you? What do you do? Why are you on the platform of podcasting? Why are you podcasting? What were you doing there that night, that day? Tell me, fill me in again,
Yeah,
so the rest of the listeners can hear this time.
yeah. Well, it was just, I always call things a little bit serendipitous, right? Which
Hmm.
means everything just kind of comes together for a reason that you don't understand, but it's meant for something bigger. And when I was sharing the story, I mean, I don't have to go way back, but, into all the details, but coming from the Central Valley, Fresno, California, which is, if anybody knows California, we're the biggest ag state in the US, one of
Hmm.
them. I think Texas is next.
Hmm.
But there's a huge, farm working community. And the legacy that, a lot of folks in Fresno, California have is the community of farm workers, a lot
Yeah.
of Latinos. And there's, my family came from, there's a lot of foster care, because a lot of
Hmm.
changes happened, and that's kind of where I came from. And I didn't come from foster care, but my grandmother and my father. And so I just thought, and I'm the oldest in the entire family, and I thought,
Hmm.
wow, no pressure there.
Yeah.
But having stereotypes as a Latina, I've always figured somewhere in the back of my mind, like, why is it like this? You know,
Mhm.
like, why can't there be more women of color or Latinas, like, playing soccer? Why can't
Okay.
more Latinas, like, I didn't see a lot of people
Mhm.
in certain areas in Fresno, and then when I was going to school, I was always curious, and so my journey started from curiosity, but also that I knew that I didn't wanna continue cycles, and, there's a lot there
Mhm.
in a lot of family, addiction and,
Yeah.
things that are very painful,
Mhm.
and so I said, "I wanna go somewhere where I can expand my mind,"
Mhm.
right? Not with, psychedelics, but, there's always that opportunity, but because I did move to San Francisco, and and, I said, "I want to explore things." And, I went to reconnect with my dad because we had a big gap in our relationship, and that's
Mhm.
due to, again, if I just mentioned his history of foster
Mhm.
care. He was in the Vietnam War, and he wanted to, be a part of, human rights and social justice when he got back because he saw a lot of that. And I don't know, maybe I get that, but we didn't share really
Mhm.
21 years of my life together. So
Oh.
when you talk about some DNA connections there, that's a little, you know,
Mhm.
I don't want to say serendipitous. That's just, DNA universal connection, kinetic energy, if you will, because
Mhm.
now I'm doing the same thing in a way.
Mhm.
And I wanted to really finish school, but I had to work. I had to work and go to school at the same time. There was no cushion. There was no like, "Oh, I have money." I had to, work and go to school double time. And then I said, I need to find a way to sustain myself because of all the broken relationships and lack of money in my family. I said, "How do I get there?"
Mhm.
And just again, by curiosity, tech was starting to take off. And I said, "What is this? What is this tech thing?" I
Mhm.
don't want to talk about it, like dating myself, but my Yahoo address still has my first and last name. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there. And
So does mine.
and I'm sweating and having hot flashes. So you do the math, do the math, do the math right there. And I said, "Okay, there is an opportunity here for me to really." I didn't understand. I didn't have any mentors,
Mhm.
and I said, "I wanna assimilate and fit in."
Okay.
And I wanted to really try to excel in that arena, that industry, because somebody gave me an opportunity
Mm.
and said, "You know what? You would be really good at this because you did this before," which was
Mhm.
I had worked in the hospitality industry as a front desk person,
Mhm.
right? A front desk associate. I had done, that kind of stuff. So I was in the hotel industry and I saw, who was, on the other side as well in the hotel industry. But because I had this way of code switching, if you will,
Mhm.
that allowed me to get into tech. And
Mhm.
people were like, "Oh, you're going to be so good at this." And I said, "Okay, great." But it was on the soft skills. What are soft
Mhm.
skills? Your relational skills, your ability to connect with people, your ability to really work with, communities or teams of people within an organization. Now, when you relate that back to your family, Latinos and how the family structure is,
Mhm.
and how you're having to, go to that, you know, party where there's like, all your cousins and tias and tios and extended friends of everybody. And there's like, before you know it, there's like 40 people at a birthday party and you're just talking to everybody. So we have that skill and that ability. And it's a superpower that we have. And if you speak Spanish and you're bilingual, which is something that was really lost, with me. But I'm
Mhm.
trying, I understand it and I try to build that muscle back. But I try to say that is our superpower in moving forward to now. And then what I was sharing with you is that when I was on my tech journey, I wanted to excel so bad because I'm like, I can do this. I was so ambitious. But you know what? They weren't looking at brown people to excel,
Mhm.
brown and black people.
Mhm.
I saw that very early on and I was like, what is this? What is going on here? And I kept seeing it, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to really try to work on this and really figure this out. So I did. And I made, a really good, I want to say, progress in a lot of big tech companies because of my relationships, because of the network that I built. But I
Mhm.
wasn't able to get any further. I
Mhm.
tried to get into leadership committees and I just was not able to get further than a certain, level in these big companies. And then I realized, why is it like that? Right? I ask a lot of questions, which people did not like. And I said, okay, there's something going on here. And I don't really know what it is. And and it was just something that again, the curiosity really got me. And I got my degree. I had my degree. I had taken, special, up leveling skill set courses, everything that I could to really get me into the next level, right?
Mhm. You were going down
Being
the path everybody else was taking.
Yes, but there
Mhm.
was always a roadblock and
Okay.
still could not understand. And then I realized, right, as I was moving through the circles, there's power dynamics and politics
Mhm.
that are just something that is built in from an infrastructure that is so powerful and institutional that I didn't realize it at the time that it was infiltrated into technology.
Mhm.
And I said, "Whoa." That was like the mind,
Mhm.
emoji exploding, right? That was me. Like, I can't believe this. And I thought, well, I'll be able to, shake and, get into another groove of technology. But the thing is, technology moves fast, industries adapt. And when you see who's leading the charge in those industries and how they're being built and how they're being um, coordinated, you start to see that it's not changing, it's getting worse and the gap is getting wider. So when my last 2 gigs were at Google and Facebook,
Mhm.
and I was on the research teams. Oh, what is going on here on the research teams, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of things going on there. First of all, why are we hired? Why am I hired with all my experience in tech, working on teams of marketing and sales? Why am I being hired as a contractor just for projects? But I was on the marketing and the marketplace platforms and analytics platforms teams,
Mhm.
but I was only a contractor, which I was paid so much less. But I'm like, again, the curiosity, like, I want to check this out. Like, what's going on here? And maybe, they're saying you can get hired as from a contract position into a full-time role. Well, if you look at Google and Facebook stock, you know how high it is. You
Mhm.
know that when you get hired into these organizations, you are getting stock options, you're getting benefits, you're getting a lot of things that will exponentially close the wealth gap. If
Mhm.
you think about someone that gets a job full time at Google and they've worked maybe at 1 or 2 tech places, or they were on a fellowship program or internship program from a very elite college or school to get into one of those organizations, the amount of money that they make, over a 2 to 3 year period is enough for them to buy them a house or to start, really building some wealth and distributing it probably to their family. Because
Mhm.
a lot of people of color, that's what we do, right?
Mhm.
We bring everybody with us,
Mhm.
supposedly. Some do, some don't, but majority of us do. So I
I
was
agree.
thinking, why is that? Why are only people of color being hired as contract workers that have a skill set? You're on a team that went to Brown or Stanford or Cal or, Harvard at these organizations, or even other elite private colleges. You're on the same team, right? They might be a higher level than you, maybe a manager, but you're doing the same work a little bit, maybe going to different meetings,
Mm-hmm.
but you're getting paid way less. And then I started to ask questions about why certain people were in positions and other people weren't. And the curiosity got the best of me. And I said, there's something going on here. And then I did even more research and I said, why is 54% of Google's workforce contract workers? 54% of Google's workforce. I mean, really let that sink in about who's really gaining all that wealth I just talked about from stock options. Go and look
Mm-hmm.
at the stock price today. I mean, it's a lot more than when I've quoted it, I believe 6 months ago, or actually
Mm-hmm.
a year ago. That,
Mm-hmm.
Amazon, Apple, all of them, they've all increased in wealth because of the pandemic, because we all use technology. There is no way around we are ever going to get out of that circle, that ecosystem of technology. And yet people of color are not on product teams. We're not being hired for, leadership roles. We're not, there's very little of us that are, but
Much less Latinas.
much less Latinas. We are the least represented in leadership roles at any of these companies.
Tech, yeah.
And that's where the light bulb went off. And I said, holy shit,
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason for this. And I said, oh my God. I'm like, here I am, and I'm like, okay, I've done a lot in Silicon Valley. I've done a lot of really strategic things and cool things before I got there, right? There's ageism, there's racism, and there is a lot of structural barriers that really prevent a lot of people from getting in. And a lot of people don't talk about that. And there are people that get in there and they want to, break down that barrier, and I really want them to. But we need to have more people of color
Mm-hmm.
on in those companies, and it's just not happening fast enough, and it just boggles my mind. So I said I did some research and I saw Latinas. This is before COVID, in 2018. They were the fastest growing segment of starting small businesses within communities of color, but also online.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the most college degrees ever in since they had been tracking, right?
Mm-hmm.
College level degrees, even second, level
Yeah, yeah, we started
master's.
indexing. Correct.
Yeah,
When I did the research, we started indexing really high on pursuing college education. And the fact that we're still indexing pretty high on actually receiving those based on the fact that we're dropping the first 2 years. Like we're indexing pretty high on enrolling into education. So it's not like we don't want it. It's not like we're not trying to get there, but you're right. There's a missing factor, and how are we not being represented? And the fact that we're not being represented, it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, there's only two positions, and you got like 400 Latinas going for it, and they're like, no, we only have two positions for two.
but why? Why can't
Yeah,
there be more?
yeah.
When you're hiring across the board,
Mm-hmm.
there are so many positions. So anyway, that pipeline discussion is total crap. It's
Yeah.
not true. And I don't care what anybody says. It's like, oh, well,
Mm-hmm.
you got to be a cultural fit.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yeah. What does that mean?
that means we don't like you. That means we don't like you,
Well
and
put, Teresa. Yeah.
it's true. We don't like you.
Yeah.
That's a nice
Yeah.
way of saying it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you need to be a cultural add in to
Mm-hmm.
add, benefits and contributions to the team, not a cultural fit. Because if you want to be like everybody else, like doing the same things, going to the same places,
Mm-hmm.
vacationing, eating, and whatever, yoga, all this stuff, it's like you're just going to have the same homogeneous kind of
Yeah.
environment and it's going to be stale. And there's been studies done Seriously,
Yeah.
beige all the way. You know, there's been
Khaki.
there's khaki. There, look, we're both wearing those colors. But the thing is, when they do the research, and the research studies have shown that when you have diversity on your teams, on your company, on your board,
Yep.
you are going to make money. So I said,
Progress. Like if you want to sustain past 20 years, any tech company also, these are the reasons why your in my humble opinion, these are probably why some of you tech companies aren't like surviving because you're not diversifying.
well, there are so many that are so far ahead that they don't care, and those are the
Yeah.
ones that I've mentioned, right? And
Yeah.
those are the ones that are really governing a
Hmm.
lot of our behavior. I mean, what can you I mean, what was I can think of a time before it was Google. It's like, when people were trying to think of, like, the phone,
Hmm.
or, like, when my niece first saw a record and she asked me, "Thea, is this a giant CD?" And I was like, "Oh my god." And now they're all into vinyl, right? It's like
Yeah.
there has to be a history shared of why these things happen. And so
Yeah.
Google, right, was started, way back,
Hmm.
and now here it is running our life. Same thing with Apple. Everybody has a phone. And the other day I was talking to a client about this, and I said, "Isn't it wild that there's only 2 operating platforms in the entire world? And that's Apple iOS for
Hmm.
Apple phones, and there's Google, which is Android."
Yeah.
That is bananas.
Hmm.
It's totally bananas. But it is what it is right now until somebody says, "I'm gonna build something, and I'm gonna, buck that trend, and
Hmm.
I'm gonna make it happen." Of course, it's like saying, "I'm gonna catch up to IBM," which is like
Hmm.
one of the oldest tech companies. It is, I think, in the world. I think it's 100 and something years old right now.
Mm.
Big Blue, as it's known, if you want some history there. But I'm not as old as IBM, just FYI. But I'm just saying I know about it. But
Hmm.
my point being is that there is an opportunity for us to leverage our, I want to say, our duality of our culture and living in the United States, how we pursue opportunities in tech. And why I bring up tech specifically is because tech is threaded through every single part of everything we do. Unless you live in a cave out in the forest and you're killing your own food and things like that, you are connected no matter what.
There was
You're totally connected.
Yeah, there was research done a couple of years ago on Hispanics and the way we use tech, and it's right here. This is our computer. Latinos were already doing it because there wasn't the affordability for us to own like a home computer. And so when they gave us internet here, I mean, we use other platforms, WhatsApp, Facebook, you name it, we got it, TikTok, Instagram. We're all over the place. And so as a big user of of, of of those platforms, Google, right? All of these things, um, being involved in the decisions of what's being made, the products that are being made, and the services that are being offered. Um, yeah, but there should probably more. It just makes sense, but it sounds like sometimes it doesn't. People don't want it to make sense, you know.
Well,
And so,
when you're buried in, social media, right, for comparison
mhm,
versus, you know, using it for something good, right? So let's
mhm,
just take the election. Oh God, we barely made it there. There's good and bad in social media. The bad
mhm,
was it threw the election in 2016. How do I know that? Because I was at Facebook, and I got hired on right after the Cambridge Analytica scandal, which is the whole thing about how Russia broke in to, set up fake accounts. And basically Facebook is, and all the ecosystem is, a psychology platform.
mhm.
So what it was doing was leveraging a lot of political discord across communities of color. We are the largest population, people of color, on these platforms.
Yeah.
We and, other there's white folks too that are on it, but
Mhm.
it sways you based on the information you're looking for. That's why we're not vaccinated as much as we should be, and that's a whole other discussion.
Mhm.
But what I'm getting at is that these platforms really have a lot of control over us. And how we use them is really specific to our daily engagement, which is kind of sad if we could use it for good.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of people rallied for this last election and used it for good amongst communities of color because we said we have to rally and get to these voting polls. We have to show up. We have to see where these voting polls were. And a lot of nonprofits really leveraged a lot of their power through social media to get people out to vote, which was amazing. And
Mhm.
that's why we got what's his face out of, there. But we can't fall asleep at the wheel because it's
Yeah.
coming again and
Mhm.
it's happening right now
Mhm.
using the platforms again. So
Yeah.
I know I'm kind of going off topic here, but the point of the matter is that there's a lot of power that you hold in your hand, and
Yeah.
how you use it is really, you know, it's really telling about how we engage communities and how we want to protect
Mm.
people. Now,
Mhm.
when I go back to small businesses and consulting, which is what I do through, and I talk to Latinas who have left tech and
Mhm.
they have started their own businesses, including myself, it's because we kind of see what's going on and we've leveraged a lot of the skill set and we're just tired of waiting. We're tired of waiting and we're tired, not all of us, but we just know we can make things happen faster because of community and the way that we do leverage technology. It's such a built-in innate thing of how we share and how we refer products and services across, our community.
Yeah.
So it's just a no-brainer. And these, you know, bros out there are totally missing the mark. So
Mhm.
that's why it's an opportunity right now for a lot of people to get started in leveraging their whatever it is that they feel like they should start something, they want to change something, they want to, create something. And I mean, it's a perfect opportunity. But I've always said from a long time ago that before I even started at Facebook, I said
Mhm.
this platform should just be used for marketing businesses, small businesses. It should just be a marketing platform for businesses. It should not be for all these things that it is today, political, rhetoric and all this craziness that's on it now. Because it could have really leveraged a lot of communities to really build wealth instead of what it is today, which is basically burned it down to the ground.
Mhm.
And that's something that is really something that I want us all to be aware of. And so how we leverage the platforms in our business, the more of us that get on there and use it for good, I think it could change a lot of things.
Mhm.
So because it's not going to die, Google's
Mhm.
never going to go away.
Mhm.
Can you imagine it going away and what people would do? What would you do? You'd have to go to the library. Oh my God.
We think of these platforms of the be all do all, but we have to understand that these places came to existence. Um, and no, I don't think Google's going anywhere. Do I think they're gonna have a competitor? Yeah. The same way that Facebook is switching and changing rapid at such a rapid pace because they see it. They see the change and they see people getting antsy and anxious around what's happened within the last 6 years. They're
Yeah.
getting anxious. People are getting anxious. They're like, well, I don't even know what to trust anymore, right? We heard that we couldn't even like trust like regular media sometimes. I blame like I have no quarrels with any like oh my god, I can't believe I'm saying I have no quarrels, okay? But the Spanish media is the reason why I think like even like some of my family members who only speak Spanish are having a hard time understanding why they need to be vaccinated because at the very beginning it's like, oh my god, this happened, oh my god, that happened, and then it didn't click to me. I mean, I work in media, but and I understand the sensationalization of what can happen and the honest truth of like how to really give information. You know what I mean? The true telling information of like what are the risk and what are not the risk and what's gonna like impact you and what might not impact you. But just being aware of like the news. And so but everything, it was like that. And but yes, I believe that there is going to be a competitor for Google, as there are competitors coming for Facebook. And we see that. And I think, not that I think they're scared, but I think they're shifting fast. Um, and in their shift, I really hope they take into account the, the people of color.
Well, unless we get on those product teams and we
Yeah.
really hold people accountable, which is part of the reason why, it is where it has gone today. Can you imagine? Let's just take, for instance, right, a scenario that there were Latinos and, you know, Black folks on the platform,
Hmm.
and they were building a product, or, whatever. Maybe there were, but they couldn't say anything because they were going to lose a
Yeah.
lot of money and they were going to lose their jobs. But if they said, "Hey, that's not really right. That's not cool."
Hmm.
Right? That's, you can't racially profile, or you can't spread that to the community, or have this person buy political ads like that, because that's going to, if somebody spoke up, right? They're going to lose their job. They're going to lose they're not going to be considered an ally in, just keep your head down and just keep working and don't say anything. And let me tell you, a lot of people in tech do that.
Hmm.
I was even told to do that at one time.
Hmm.
Like, if you want to keep your job, seriously, just keep your head down and don't say anything.
Keep going.
Yeah, just keep going. And I did do that. But then at the end of the day, I just, I said, I can't do it anymore, because there's too much here. There's too much BS. And some people don't care, right? They're like, yeah, I don't care. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get my money. I don't care. I'm going to do, I have a family, this, not, I don't have a lot of that, but I care about the people that are coming up. And if there isn't an opportunity for them, or now there is because of everything that's happened, right? They have to be aware, and they don't have to do anything, but there is an awareness that they know there is a lack of representation, that communities of color have been the most affected through this pandemic,
Hmm.
through their platforms, by the, misleading information. There is a global study, even outside of the United States, that is shown that these platforms, especially Facebook and other media outlets, have spread misinformation about the vaccination.
Hmm.
And this could have been such an opportunity for, just so many things.
Hmm.
And, it's like, I guess the vote was one of them, but the pandemic, everybody just, said, "Forget it." I'm not gonna have something. But when we had, I remember when I had to go before you went to school, before you even entered school into kindergarten, you had to have like all your vaccinations. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I remember being what was it? I think I was going to 5th grade or 6th grade, and I was like, why is my mom taking me to the clinic? We never go to the doctor. Why am I here? It's because they sent a letter home saying that I need to get, I don't remember what it was, but I had to get a vaccine. But
Yeah.
it was just, and my mom did it so willingly. But today she has a hard time
See,
taking some stuff.
this is what I don't understand. And I get it, but we're all here today because before this pandemic came, because we were all vaccinated. We didn't die from the chicken pox. We don't have the I forget what it is, the rubella,
Hmm.
um, you know, all the things that were way
Polio.
before, yeah, that had wiped out, a disease, a virus that has been, roaming around for centuries, and we get vaccinated for it, and there's no question about it. This is the same thing. And, the thing is, people are afraid, and that's okay to be afraid. I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
not okay to be afraid,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but we're all still here and it's fine.
Yeah,
And
but here's the thing though. It's like I accept all the choices that everybody makes. All of, you made the choice whether you wanted to or not. You made the choice whether to vote, who to vote for and what to do. We all made the choices. Um but but when the understanding is that your choice was skewed due to misinformation, um then you're like, well, how do we give them the right information? Not that I think they're going to change their choice, but or you know what I'm saying? Like, not that it's like studying, right? For a test. It's like if you study the correct information, you might pass that test and you get to choose when you have the right information to whatever choice you have. But if you're not even studying the right material, well, how are you choosing A or
right,
B? And so it's like I said, we all have the choice. We all have the choice whether to do this or to do that, to vote, to not, to who, for what, and whatever.
right.
But you're right. It is about the information that was out there, that was floating out there, that wasn't
Well,
being pulled fast enough. It just got picked up by all kinds of people who had influence and just started using that as material. Basically, it was armor that they were using it. You know what I mean? And it affected a lot of us, and it affected the choices that some people were making. Not that I think they would have chosen differently, but it just affected it. You know what I
right.
mean? It's like you get pushed up against in the right direction as opposed to the left direction, or you get pushed the left direction as opposed to right direction, as opposed to being like this or this, right? Where am I? Here we go. So this or this, right? This or this, not being forced into one direction, which is where the problem started to lie. And that's the conversation we're having today, is that, right? The problem that happens, I believe, what could have happened if there was more diverse people at the top to be like, hey, this is happening in my community, and it's happening
Accountability.
because of this, and it's be happening because where we're here in this company, and we seem not to care that this information is out there floating around within these communities. But if that information was floating around in different communities, they would be on top of it.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know what I
Trust
mean?
me.
And so
Yes.
that's the part where you're like, okay,
Yeah.
what's up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. So again, the technology is so this is my advocacy for technology. It is not to stop technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's to build the technology that we need and that will help our communities thrive.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go back to why I started or I left and I said this is enough. I have to talk about this, which is why I started the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to the first couple of episodes, I really get into the politics and how there is before, during the Trump administration. Even
Mm-hmm.
before that, there has been this small little this little I don't want to it's just a lot of regression or I don't know how to say it. I'm trying to say it in a way that makes sense, is that it's been happening towards women, but mostly women of color for a long time. And the way I look at that is through how we're being elected into our local governments or our local communities and then all the way up to the top. It took a
Mm-hmm.
long time, but we're doing it, and that's a lot of fear that's going on because women are rising up, especially women of color. And people don't like it when women of color start gaining a lot of power, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little bit of pushback on that. So when I talk about leadership, it's because we
Mm-hmm.
are taking the leadership role
Mm-hmm.
because we're the mamas, we're the tias, we're the ones that advocate for our families and communities.
Mhm.
And right now, there's a lot of nonprofits that are really trying hard, especially ones that that have healthcare initiatives attached to their nonprofit, is to
Mhm.
really push people to get vaccinated, because that's the only way it's going to happen, is where they come from communities that they trust, and they have to hear it from other folks within their, or within their circles, that
Mhm.
have been vaccinated, and that they're okay, there's nothing to be afraid of. So when I look at the technology part, and how women are taking leadership, and we're spreading information through community and care and leading by example, that's where I said I want to push the narrative higher, and I want to use all the skills that I've acquired to raise the voices of those women that have started or left tech, or that use tech, or have
Mhm.
built technology platforms that
Okay.
are going to help community be stronger. And that's why I started Latinas from the Block to the Boardroom.
Mhm.
That's why I started my consulting business for women of color that are on in business,
Mhm.
because I want them to understand the power of technology and how to use it correctly in their business, so that they don't get left behind, because it changes so fast.
Mhm.
And if we don't understand how it works from a data perspective, and
Mhm.
how we talk and engage with folks on the platform, it really kind of puts us behind this quote unquote eight ball of like,
Mhm.
well, I know social media, but I don't have business acumen, which is like, I don't know about business planning. I don't know about strategy planning. I don't know about how to do my accounting. I don't know how to, hire people in a way
Mhm.
that's going to help me grow more of my business. Or how do I put my website together so that I can, leverage all the other platforms to really get me visible online for me to sell my products and services.
Mhm.
There's things like that. And what technology platforms should I be using for that? Can, what is, how do you set that mindset? Because that is the way all these folks have started their business that are making, leaps and bounds ahead of us. And that is, the white community. That's what they've been doing for years. And let me tell you, there have been communities of color that have started their own communities of wealth and business,
Mhm.
and they've been destroyed, right?
Mhm.
And how do we get that back? It's through the internet, it's through the technology platforms today, because we use it so much. There is an average use of time on your iPhones or through the computer that is almost 3 hours a day. An average. That's
Okay.
not even that's
I think I
3
use way
hours.
more. I think I use way more.
Yeah, I'm telling you, everybody's like, like, I'm just saying 3 hours a
Uh-huh.
day
Uh-huh. For the
is
average user.
most, yeah, for the average user.
That's
Of
the
s
person who like gets on it every now and then.
They're
But
spending
people
an
like me and you,
hour. Yeah, they're
people
probably
like me and
spending an
you,
hour in the morning, an
uh-huh,
hour during their lunchtime, or
an
checking,
hour.
and then an
Uh,
hour or 2 at night, right? Think of
um,
all that time. So when you think about how much we're leveraging that, we're sharing information, we're talking about our friends, you know,
mhm,
tamales, or look at their the stuff they're making, or their business, right,
mhm,
to support them. How much we're sharing information that can be used for a lot of great things,
mhm,
instead of spreading the wrong thing and not holding people accountable. So this is where my intersection comes in, of trying to leverage and give you and everybody that I know that platform, because, I just see building a bridge, from, where I am to, letting others know like what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
or what's coming, like, just be aware, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just
Yeah.
have your just have your I like to say, just have your headlamp on in the dark so you know where you're going.
Yeah, yeah. So metamorphosis, to add to that, have you ever watched the movie The Devil Wears Prada?
I've seen parts of it, yes.
Okay, there's a section in there where she talks about this cobalt blue sweater that this girl has on from Gap. And she
Mhm,
talks about how she thought she chose that color because she bought it from a sales rack. And she was like, no, what happened was it started here in like the magazine spread, and we decided the colors that were going to be for that year. And that's how it trickled down. So this is how Facebook worked,
mhm.
right? They decided what was going to happen and what was happening there and the movements that were taking place. And we just kind of bought into it. I usually only like I don't I
And this
don't
was
want
a
to take up
lot.
too much.
This was a lot of information. I know it was
To
a lot of
I love this.
information.
I love if you have the time, I can keep talking, but usually I know that I can talk. And we sat there at the Japanese restaurant, we wouldn't leave.
Oh my
And I
god.
just kept
They
talking.
were like, "Are you everybody's left and you Latinas are still here." We were there at the beginning at
And
happy
you were
hour,
there.
and then
Yeah.
there was, like, maybe 6 people left in the whole place, and we're like, "Man, we gotta
We
get out of
started a
here."
happy hour. I think we left like around 10,
Yeah, people were
11. I don't
gone,
even
yeah,
remember. I can talk and I can talk and I can talk. And of course,
but
if you're
that's what we
listening,
do.
yeah, yeah. If you're listening to Teresa, this is the kind of conversations we were having. These are the kind of conversations that were just leading to what we were talking about. And to me, it was like, this is why I do what I do. These are the kind of conversations that need to be heard, and these are the kind of stories that need to be told. Um, because you never know who this story is going to resonate with and how they're going to take it. And who knows who can potentially hear it. Maybe they'll listen to a clip of it and somewhere, and they might mention it somewhere and be like, hey, I heard this. I don't know if this is true, but I heard this. And maybe, hey, maybe there should be change, you know?
Yes.
You never know. You never know. And wherever it lands, whoever's ears like it falls upon, and somehow, somewhere it makes a change. Perfect. Perfect. I don't give me credit. You know what I'm saying? Just do it. Go do it. Make the change. Do what needs to happen. Get out there. But I mean, I love having these conversations that I said I can keep you on here. I loved absolutely everything you were saying. I believe that you're going to make the change. It's going to be you who somebody hears and listens to, and it's going to click. I truly believe that. Honestly. I
I
was like, I believe that that day, and I believe it today.
Oh, thank you.
So
That's really, like, I'm getting all I have a bug in my eye right now. I'm
don't.
like, "I got a bug. Hold on." Um, that's really wonderful because that's the goal, because I
Mhm.
said I waited too long
Mm.
for me, right? But there were things that, I wanted to do, and that was to build my own wealth so that
Mhm.
I could be sustainable, and there are things that you do, right? Like having a partner, right? Which I
Mhm.
have, I'm married, and that builds wealth together as well.
Yeah.
Um, and you see that, and when you think about how much you can give back or mentor, a lot of people talk about mentorship. I am not held, I'm just going to say right off the bat, I'm not really held in a very high light, because I do talk about the hard things and things that are, you know, very real. But people say, well, that's not everybody. But you know what? I'm going to talk about it because there aren't many of us there. And the
Mhm.
more we push
Mhm.
and the more we speak up
Mhm.
and the more we support each other and lift our voices through these platforms, like what you're doing also, Angelica, you're giving us that platform as well, is that it starts to move the dial from all of us, not
Mhm.
just me, but
Mhm.
it's you, me, all those women at She Podcast. It's other women getting on the platform, and we have to show up.
Mhm.
We show up. And, I'm going to give you an example, which is really funny. So every Halloween, right? We don't have that many kids, and our neighborhood has gone through a transition. And, we've been here for some time. And I love Halloween. Halloween is like my favorite, and Dia de los Muertos is like
Mhm.
another thing. Um, but I'm a big fan and I decorate the whole outdoors and the house. And Mark is like, my husband, he's like, you know, we, I don't know why you do it like every year because there are hardly no kids in the neighborhood, right? They don't come. And I said,
Mhm.
you know what? I do it for the kids that do
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
it's going to make their night. One day they're going to say,
Mhm.
I remember, or, they come and they take pictures, which they've done. And I said, I don't care. If I make that one kid's, Halloween because last year nobody came out for Halloween, or they just, they don't see a lot of decorated houses in their neighborhood, or they feel like they have to go all the way across town to the rich neighborhood
Mhm.
where all these, families and craziness happens, but there's one on their block that they feel like, oh, I can go there. I don't care. I show up every year
Mhm.
in costume as well.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm here, and
Mhm.
that's the way I wanna be moving forward. It's like, I'm here,
Mhm.
and I'm not, I show up, and I'm not gonna back down because I know what's happening because I was in there,
Mhm.
and I've felt it, I've seen it, and
Mhm.
I was just floored
Mhm.
by what was happening, and then how we're all using this technology. My mind was just like, it's like an onion,
Mhm.
just peeled back, like, whoa. So, anyway, the showing up part is really important. And I want to continue to do that. And you're doing that. And when all of us do it, we really are a force to be reckoned
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. Yeah, when people can't, it's hard to deny us when they can't isolate us and be like it's one experience. No, sweetheart, it's a lot of experience. It's a lot of our experiences. It's difficult to deny us. It's difficult to unsee us.
It
So,
really is. And
mhm.
and when you get a Latina that's on a mission,
Mhm.
oh my God. So,
Careful.
I mean, yeah, look at us. We're coming back, right? A lot of us were really broken,
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
say the least, by the pandemic, and we still are on many levels. But
Mhm.
we're coming back stronger. We're aligning with, our, we're aligning with, the our Black, communities and our AAPI communities. We're all trying to stand together and say, forget it. We can't do it alone in silos. We can't, right?
Mhm.
And the more we realize that we need to support each other. I mean, some people are not, they're not like that. They're like, I'm not going to do it. And that's totally fine.
Yeah, that's okay. That's I mean, I like I said, I accept everybody's choices to do as you wish. As I would like to be accepted for the choices that I make and the things that, you know, my experience. This is my story, and I get to tell it.
But do you see what I'm saying? That's the
Yeah.
power of where we
Mhm.
are today by things that have happened in the past, which is really amazing. And it's also very tragic at the same time.
Mhm.
And here we are having this accessibility, availability, and the choice as a woman, where in other countries that is just not a thing.
Mhm.
And we're really, I want to say, we're really kind of moving in a direction that is going to change so many things.
Mhm.
And I want us to, try to internalize that and harness that power because it's real.
Mhm.
It is. And I just see this as such an opportunity. And I don't know. I want to keep the momentum for, women because, there's so many tears,
Mhm.
legacy tears and trauma that, I just, we've been healing, but we're still suffering. And I think we just need everybody right now to
Mhm.
just support one another and keep, don't be afraid of the vaccine. Don't be, try not to live in that fear. Some people are like, I don't need the vaccine, I'm good. But
Mhm.
it's a science thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's a science thing. So, I'm serious.
Uh-huh.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I love science. I'm a science nerd,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
that's just the way it is for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the way for all of us. For some of us, I geek out on some things too. So I get it.
Yeah,
I
I
get it.
mean,
I get
I
it.
love technology. I love
Mhm.
science. I love, all these things, and it's like when I see it hurting community,
Mhm.
that's where you have to just buck the system.
Mm.
And that's what I'm trying to do
Okay.
in another way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Because
hear
I'm a
you.
rebel.
It seems we are. It seems like a lot of us are.
I know. Look, I had you see, I didn't even need a glass of Pinot. I just had an espresso. So I'm done. I no, I'm not done, but I think I need to shut up now.
No, you're good. You're okay. You're okay.
And
But
people are like,
but
what
like
is
I said,
going on with her?
like I said, we can sit here all day and have this conversation, but for the sake of those listening to the podcast, and they probably understand that okay, so yes, this is Teresa. She did an amazing job at introducing what she's doing and what she's up to. Teresa, I absolutely love you. But before I let you go, before you go off
Before I go
your
and put my marching boots on, yes.
you're marching, where are you going?
Go bust shit up right now. I'm so
Oh shit.
mad. No, I'm just I'm just kidding.
Oh, my
Boots
bad.
to
Yes. Oh shit. Okay. Now
boots
I
to
got it.
suits. I'm just
Boots
kidding.
is good.
Boots to suits. I'm telling you, I get fired up about this thing. It's like why,
Yeah.
when I'm feeling really sad, I want to get up and I'm like, I can't. What
Do
did I
it.
say? I got
Yeah.
to show up.
Yeah. 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 That's what you have to do. But I have a few questions before you go busting down some doors. Okay. Just a
Yes.
second. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Okay.
Before I pop up in your IG feed, yes.
You wherever you pop up, hold on. Hold on. Hold on. I got a few questions before you go do that. Okay. So I ask people one or two questions just so we can get to know you even a little bit more. I felt like we got to know you, but just a little bit. Okay. So, first question: have you ever been wrong? You don't have
Oh
to mention
God,
what it was.
yes.
So, you don't have to mention what it was, but what was the lesson learned?
I've learned that you can't take people for granted, and you always should be thankful when people give you an opportunity. There have been times where I have missed an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to thank someone or to say I'm sorry,
Hmm.
right? Saying sorry is a big thing because I felt that I have been right
Mm-hmm.
and that, there's a lot of ego involved. And right now is a good time to say, I'm wrong or that I'm sorry. And it hurts, but it's okay. You grow from that. It doesn't mean you're weak, like I've
Mm-hmm.
learned, but sometimes I've missed that opportunity. And I wish that I could, go back, but I can't. But that is, something that I've learned that if I need to say I'm sorry, it's it's good to say it and take that opportunity to overcorrect from my mistakes, which I've done. So that's kind of what I've learned. It's hard.
It is hard. It is hard. It's hard to be wrong. It's because you think you know better, because you want to believe you have the best of intentions. And it's difficult to accept that no, you're gonna be wrong, and probably more often than you feel. And sometimes I'm wrong today about some of the things that I've done or said in the past that I still think I'm right about. I don't even know them. So you're
Mm.
like, like what is it? Like somebody just please show me the light. So yeah, for sure. I definitely I agree. I agree.
It's hard to build yourself
Hmm.
back up when you
Oh, when it's big.
yeah, when it's
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
you're like, what do you do, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, no, that's a hard one, but
It is.
you just have to if you get an opportunity, or you just have to forgive yourself, I guess,
Yeah.
is the way.
Uh,
It's hard. It really is. It's hard.
I preach that all the time, and still now that 10 years of therapy under my belt, still difficult, still hard. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, so one last question, and then I promise you I'll let you go.
No, I'm good. You know what? I blocked off the rest of my day because I didn't know based on the time difference, like
Okay.
what time. So I'm totally fine.
Okay.
Mhm.
So this next question is I ask all my Latinas when they come up here, when they come on here, and I love asking this question because I love to hear the response. Do you consider yourself a leader?
Ooh. I do have in my business, um, leadership and marketing. That is kind of
Okay.
my business umbrella name.
Uh-huh.
It's called 5E Leadership and Marketing.
Okay.
And the 5E is using 5 areas of equity, entrepreneur, economic, you know, um, kind of education,
Mm-hmm.
awareness, all these different things that build a leader and build community. But also, that is something that you build within yourself that gives you an opportunity to really market yourself or your business out there, because that's what you grew up with, that's what you have, and that's how you build relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that as part of an opportunity to say, well, everybody's in leadership
Uh-huh.
that takes, initiative, that takes a first step towards finishing their education,
Mm-hmm.
that's showing to their family that, they want to succeed, or that they want to, build themselves into a better person,
Mm-hmm.
or how they want to become economically stable, or if they want to start a business. All these things, it takes leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really not about me, it's about community. And then I just want to support that. So I want to say, being a leader, you have to, there's a lot of trust involved. And I look at myself as not being so much of a leader, but more of like a partner,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we share information to move forward. And that's
Mm-hmm.
how I look at leadership,
Mm-hmm.
because you know, it's it takes a lot, and it almost kind of sounds like, how do you become a leader? Well, you just have to, put one foot forward, and
Mm-hmm.
you can do it. Some people say it starts early, like you're bossy. It's like, that's not right. I am bossy. But my husband will say that to the end of the earth, like, quit
Mm-hmm.
bossing me around, quit telling me what to do. And I'm like, well, why are there dishes in the sink? I'm like,
Yeah.
come on, let's share the load here. But I'm digressing here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm avoiding the question because I want to be humble, and I don't consider myself as like, oh, I'm the next, like, Bill Gates, or
Uh-huh.
whatever. Kamala Harris is a big leader for,
Okay.
I consider her a leader, even though a lot of people don't really agree with her politics or what
Mm-hmm.
she's done. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what? The bottom line is, to be a leader, you just show up,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of have to just take. You can't. I don't want to say you can't do anything. It's just that there is fear.
I can tell you take that word on, and you seem to understand the value what that word holds to become a leader. And I know what you're saying. I know what you're doing. You're going in a roundabout way to say that you can probably become a better leader. I hear you.
Absolutely.
I hear you,
Oh my
Teresa, but
God.
I want to tell you that humility already comes with leadership. It comes with it. And saying you're a leader means you're humble enough to say that. Means you've taken on, you've accepted a role that even whether it was given to you, whether you took it, whether you accepted it, and you're like, I'm on a mission. I'm a leader. And you're humble enough to admit to that. And
Mm,
there's nothing like yes, there's all these other people. Here's the thing. Bill Gates, is he a leader? In a way he is. He's a facilitator. He's
mm,
he's he's doing some things in around, but leaders, um to me, are, for me here on this series, are a little bit different. Just a little bit different. Yes,
mm.
in impact.
Mhm.
Leadership brings impact. And you're doing that. You're doing that. You know what I'm saying? And I like I told you earlier, I think the needle is being made and being moved and being shifted because you're being heard, not because people like you are being heard, because I believe you're being heard.
Mm.
You as a person, that are being heard. And yes, I I think you want, you're doing enough and you're doing so much. So much. But I think you know that. You know that and you're like, I gotta press that, but like I gotta press this gas more. I gotta
I
press this gas a
do.
little bit more, and then maybe I myself.
Right?
Yeah, I feel
Right?
the same way. I feel the same way sometimes. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you, Teresa.
I look at my analytics every day, like, on Audio Boom, and I'm like, "What am I not doing right?" No, I'm just kidding. I'm
Sometimes
just
it's the
kidding.
gamut. No, sometimes
Yeah,
it's the gamut. Sometimes before we walk, they like to hit us at the knees and they're like, try walking like that. And you're like, hold on, hold on. All
yeah.
right. But sometimes it happens like that. But so do you consider yourself a leader?
Oh, do I consider myself a leader?
Yes.
I want to be a leader in the way that
Mhm.
I
Fair
can
enough.
build people up and that they trust me or they know I have the ability to help them. It
Mhm.
is a humility thing. I don't
Mhm.
I always, I always look at it like before the pandemic
Mhm.
and before, everything went sideways.
Yeah.
I always had my family,
Mhm.
my extended family, my husband's family, everybody over to our house. And I would
Mhm.
cook and set the table and I would make sure everybody had a plate of food
Mhm.
before I even sat down.
Mm.
And that to me is very not because I want it that way.
Mhm.
It's just that and I kind of feel that way in business or just in this is that
Mhm.
I want to make sure everybody is good
Mm.
or feels good or that they have accessibility or that they're in a good space before I
Mhm.
can actually sit down. And that's kind of weird to say that
No,
because it's like
that's yeah.
I'm not thinking of myself.
Mhm.
But the thing is, when you're being a leader, sometimes you have to let go of that, right?
Mhm.
Of self.
Mhm.
And then you just have to trust that when you need their help or that, they'll be there for you
Yeah.
in what you need to get, things done, like washing the dishes.
Mhm. Listeners, if you're listening to this, I hope you heard what Teresa just said. I think she took something, and I'm going to mark this right here. I'm going to mark this because you said something very powerful right now at this very moment when you said sometimes it takes a leader to back up, to back away, and make sure everybody has a plate before you sit down.
Yes.
I want listeners, if you're listening to that, I want you to hold that. I want you to timestamp that and listen to what she just said. That's I love asking this question because of answers like that. Because I get
Mm,
answers like that. And it is thank you. Thank you. Another reminder, very humbling way what a leader truly is. And I appreciate that, Teresa. Very much appreciate that. Appreciated that response.
Thank you, Angelica. It's, I miss it actually.
Mm-hmm.
I miss that,
Mm-hmm.
having everybody over. It's been very isolating, but I hope to get back to that.
Mm-hmm.
And the business right now of me working with people,
Mm-hmm.
and these women that are trying to, I want to give them as much of my knowledge as I
Mm-hmm.
can so that they're elevated in that
Mm-hmm.
same metaphor,
Mm-hmm.
so that, I can, sit down when they're
Mm-hmm.
done,
Yeah.
because that's really what it is, and vice versa, right?
Mm-hmm.
They share what they have, and whatever. It's just something of, I guess, it's just, that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
don't
this
know, is that
conversation.
corny?
No, that was perfect. That was
Oh,
perfect. That was an amazing stopping point. That was
oh,
perfect. Perfect.
thank you.
Before I let you go, Teresa, if I was a listener, or even me, if I wanted to hire you to be my consultant, to be
Mhm.
my to take part of your leadership, where can I find you?
Oh, you can go to Latinas B2B dot marketing, which is, Latinas B2B is the .com is the podcast,
Hmm.
but it's also tied to, Latinas B2B dot marketing. We're
Oh,
doing a lot of, I'm going to be doing probably some updates to the website,
okay.
right now, because that's what you do. You got to, change things up a bit, and COVID has really done a lot. And
Yeah.
so I want to be able to, help as many people as I can. And workshops are something that I'm thinking of doing more next year. And I want to be able to facilitate, because the more I can help people that way,
Uh-huh.
it's it works better, I think.
Is there a product right now, or is there a service right now that you're it's very hyper specific? Just so the listeners know, maybe they're take interest.
Well, right now, everything on the podcast is
Okay.
giving a lot of information,
Okay.
in various podcasts of, how to start a business, or how do you do your research, or how do
Mm,
you get involved, in starting, your own product line,
okay.
things like that. But that's what I mean. I mean, this is really just my second year,
Okay.
and I'm trying to ramp up to get that on the website so that there is, something that we can provide, because it's not just me. There's a lot of things, going on.
Yeah.
And I don't know, technology is a big part of it. And I want to be able to educate people around that a little bit more. So,
Yeah. So for those who are listening on Instagram, if you're hearing this, you can actually add her. Her hashtag is her hashtag. I'm sorry, her ad is handle is Latinas B2B, and you find her there and follow her and follow all the things, amazing things she's doing on there, because she has amazing interviews that she's done in the past. I've listened. I think the last one, or the
oh,
the
with
last one
Alpine
before last one.
Parrot,
I can't remember
or,
which one.
hmm
I
or,
listened. I listened to it, but you know me. And I don't know if you have suffered from this syndrome where you have where you forget everybody's name, but you remember what they said, and then
yes.
you can put a face to like their voice and a face to what they said and like where they live. I do that all the time. I tell my husband she lives here, she does this, and he's like, "Well, what's her name?" I'm like, "I forgot." I know everything else but a name.
Yeah.
But so yeah, go listen to the podcast. She has an amazing guest. She has, as you heard her on this podcast, the woman knows what she's doing. Just
Oh
FYI.
gosh.
Just
I
FYI.
There's always room for learning, and
There
that's what
is.
I always say,
There is.
always be learning,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of information out there, and like you said earlier, it just depends on where it comes from.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can trust someone and they're living proof of through trial and error,
Mhm.
then, just go with your gut, and just, see where it takes you.
Mhm.
Right now, you know, I remember before the so I'm just gonna end on this note a little bit, which is kind
Okay.
of funny.
Absolutely.
Just to kind of bring it up a notch, and to, be like, "Hey, maybe you might wanna get your vaccine," is, Everybody thought people were going to turn into zombies, and I'm not a zombie. So there you go.
That's a great note to end it on. Teresa, that was amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your Thursday to talk to me. I absolutely love this. Any information provided will be somewhere in the description, up in the links, in my link tree, in all the spaces to look for Teresa. Teresa, thank you so much for talking to me today.
You're welcome, Angelica. I had fun. I hope the listeners had fun. And yeah, hopefully we can get you all someday on listening to all of us
Yeah,
in some wonderful summit. That's what I'm looking
absolutely.
forward to.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Speak that into existence. We're
Yes.
going to be in some summit somewhere with our podcast, something, somewhere. We're going to be there. All
Yeah.
right, Teresa, really quick. I want you to do this. Wave up your hand and say goodbye to my listeners. Bye.
Goodbye. Adios. Gracias. What
Did you think of that conversation? I sincerely, truly, when somebody starts to speak from a place of like where they're coming from, you just have to sit back and listen, because they're saying something that's going to resonate with you, and they're speaking from a place where they're just laying it all out there for you to understand them, for you to get to know where they're coming from and why they're saying the thing they're saying. And that's exactly what I did on this episode, on this episode with this interview. She was an amazing guest. What did you think of that last insight? What did you think of the things that she was saying right at the end when I told you pay attention to this? What did you think? Do you agree? Let me know. Let me know. Also, follow her on her social sites, and comment and subscribe and like, and then let me know what you think. Yeah, that's it. I have one more interview for this season, and that's a wrap for this season. And like I said, I'll see you next time. Bye.